I am Dr. Malea Jensen, and I want to welcome you to Dr. J's Prescription for Health, and I'm your host. This is my co-host. This is Tucker. Tucker is co-hosting from heaven. So he just had a birthday. He is now 17. And he passed away short 6 months ago, and I'm missing him. So he had a birthday on the 18th, and it was a tough day, but we got through it, and all is good. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to Dr. J's Prescription for Health. This is your opportunity to ask questions, medical questions, for important truths and tips, and we can walk through things together. I know that there is going to be controversy. There's sides to be taken, and I don't like to take sides. I just like to provide information. If I don't know the answers to your questions, I'm just going to tell you. I'm not afraid of admitting I don't know something, and I think that's important for a doctor. So with that being said, this is not medical advice. This is for information purposes only. We are live on YouTube and Instagram. So the YouTubers and the Instagrammers, I'm getting questions on both sides. So bear with me, as if you think that who's asking the questions, I don't see that question being asked. It's because it's coming from the other platform. Good morning, Lucy, and welcome. Where are you guys listening from? Let me know. All right. Oh, it says we're hang on. Are you guys okay? Are you on Instagram? It says hang on. We're telling our listeners. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Where are you guys listening from? Okay. Our first question is in regards to omega-3s. Do I need to take, or what is a good supplement to take? Well, that's a great question. For many of you that know me well, have done consultations with me, you know that I am not a huge proponent of taking supplements. Now, I'm not saying that I'm against all supplements. I think there's a time and a place that we might need. Oh, Carrie's listening from Great Britain. I think that's Great Britain. But anyway, for those of you who know me, yeah, it's a tough call for me to promote supplements. But let's just talk about omega-3s. Our omega-3s, oh, wow, Kenya, Africa. Welcome, and thanks for listening. Listening from the UK. So we got a couple of UKers. I don't have a favorite band, but thanks for asking. Hi, Spider-Man. Omega-3s, my take on it, are there some good omega-3s in supplement form? Possibly. But for the most part, the omega-3s that we get are, by the time we get them, are already oxidized. Another word for that is called rancid. So they are not quality by the time the salmon or the krill or whatever it is dumped itself into the bottle, made into a capsule, and cleaned and bleached and whatever they have to do to get that salmon omega-3 or krill omega-3 or whatever the omega-3 fish is using, to get that in a capsule, make it shelf stable, because once the air hits it, once the light hits it, it becomes oxidized. So it's rancid before before we get it. And I don't think taking in, even though they're essential fatty acids, omega-3s, I just don't think taking them in a supplement form is in our best interest. For that reason, I suggest that we eat, in our diet, we eat omega-3s. That can come from salmon and tuna, so fish. It can come from grass-fed meats. So if you eat grass-fed beef, that is a great source. Pasture-raised eggs are going to have more omega-3. It's important that if you're going to get an omega-3 to omega-6 ratio or 6-to-3 ratio, that ratio be 1-to-1. Anyone who eats a standard diet, American diet or worldly diet, a standard worldly diet, is going to be in much higher in omega-6 than it is in omega-3. And I've seen ratios upwards to 21-to-1, omega-6 to omega-3. That's not good. Okay, that's very inflammatory diet. The other day, I actually saw a 29. That is really high. Okay. I'm really bad with iron deficiency and I don't like steak or broccoli. What should I eat? So why are you iron deficient? And what is the definition of your iron deficiency? Because I am doubting that people are actually deficient in iron. They might be deficient in heme iron, especially if you don't eat red meat, but I do not think that people are deficient in non-heme iron. Non-heme iron is a synthetic type of iron that is fortified in all of our foods that are processed. Because of the processing, all the vitamins and minerals are stripped out, and then they have to be added back in order to be called food and put on a shelf in the grocery store. You cannot put not food on a shelf in a grocery store. And not food has no vitamins or minerals or nutrients that qualifies it as being food. So with that being said, non-heme iron is very prevalent and we take vitamins. I don't recommend taking vitamins. So a multivitamin is full of non-heme iron. Non-heme iron is also found in plant foods. So if you're a vegan, you are getting a lot of non-heme iron and very little heme iron. That can be detrimental. Non-heme iron can build up. It's not usable, it's not absorbed, and it can build up in our body. It can increase the risk of oxidation. Basically, the cells in the membrane get full of it. Within the cell itself, like the mitochondria, can get full of non-heme iron. The mitochondrial membrane can get full of non-heme iron. When that is mixed with oxygen, and when that's mixed with water, guess what that combination causes? You got it, rusting. So we have to be very careful with the actual diagnosis of iron deficiency. I think we need better testing. You need to get full iron studies. You need to get a serum iron. You need to get a ferritin level and a transferrin level and a TIBC. You need a CBC because we can look at the MCV and be able to tell, what's going on. We can look at your liver function and see what's going on. If your liver is not working very well, your red blood cells aren't going to be working very well. Heme iron is found in red blood cells. Non-heme iron, no, that's not. It's not usable. It's not absorbable. It can't be converted. Let's see. What are we? Oh, somebody is questioning my specialty. I am family practice. I have been board certified in family practicing in the United States for 27 years. So that is but does it really matter how we're trained in all reality? Have you seen some of the doctors out there and their education? Their knowledge, I should say. Oh, they're quite educated. Oh, good. Thanks, Lucy, for letting me know that everything is okay on your end with the audio. Thank you. Okay. Here's one. Carrie September just discovered me and wants to ask a question, a weight training question. So been weight training for 5 years, a little bit of tennis elbow. So eliminating the culprit exercises, okay? Would you care to share thoughts on how to prevent? That's a good question. Anytime we put our hand in what I call neutral position. So this is supination. So soup, you carry a bowl of soup. So when your palms are up, that is supination. When palms are down, that is pronation. So this would be considered neutral, okay? Anytime we put our hands in neutral and our thumb in a whole grip, we are putting a lot of strain on this area right here, which is where the tennis elbow is, okay? It's the lateral epicondyle. So this is the lateral epicondyle of your forearm. So we're putting a lot of stress on these muscles like the brachioradialis and the brachialis. And when our hands are like this, especially when it's in a full grip versus a false grip, we are putting a lot of strain on this area. Now, anytime we grab something, even if grabbing a door handle, if you grab a door handle and turn, you are putting pressure on that lateral epicondyle. So avoiding exercises that cause that. So even like waiters who carry trays, they have a high risk for getting lateral epicondylitis, tennis elbow. So this is golfer's elbow, medial epicondylitis. This is lateral epicondylitis on the outside. And so waiters, anybody who's pounding on a hammer. So this is the movement. So you're pounding on a hammer, your hand is in this grip, you're putting stress. Also, anybody who's twisting with a screwdriver. All of these things. How about sleep? Sleep is huge. If you are sleeping with your arms fully flexed, you can put pressure on your lateral epicondyle. Even if you have your arms fully out in front of you or to your side, that can also put pressure. So, a lot of people will wear an elbow pad over their, on the pad on this, so they can't bend their arm. So you take stress off of that. It also takes stress off your ulnar nerve. I mean, there's so many things that we can do, but I'm guessing not just your weight training is playing a role in your lateral epicondylitis. What I do is, I used to have troubles with this. I did a lot of hammer curls. I did a lot of full gripped exercises, especially even with pulling exercises like a low pulley row. The minute I started doing a false grip, it took that pressure off that lateral epicondyle, and I use self-massage. So just working out that calcium deposit. So if this is a culprit, I mean, I've seen people who do a lot of shooting. So cops who are practicing on the range a lot, they have troubles with lateral epicondylitis a lot. So it's not uncommon. I got a loosey-goosey here. Let me see. Go lay down. Hold on. All right. So, okay. So we got the little guy on our desk. Okay. All right. So we will not be distracted any longer. Great believer in one listening to yes, I agree. Listening to the body is very important. I believe that too. So I just try to avoid things that can increase that risk, like you're doing, and then get it healed up. Don't jump back into those types of exercises or doing those things until it's completely healed. And it takes forever, you guys. I do not recommend injecting that area. Carrie says, wow, I know exactly which exercises. Thank you. Okay, great. That's good. Cooper's Gaming, I would look into what blood tests you actually said came back saying you're iron deficient. If it is simply just your hemoglobin and hematocrit, it's not enough. That is not enough to say I'm iron deficient. Iron deficiency is actually a poor term. We might want to use like anemia. That is not a good word to use, because anemia really only means that we have iron dysregulation. There's something wrong with the iron regulation. So saying that you are iron deficient may not be the exact answer. You could actually be iron deficient of heme iron and then iron overload of non-heme iron. You need to know. And just simply getting a hemoglobin or hematocrit, it's not enough. So question your doctor and say, hey, exactly tell me, did you go and look did you do what we call a peripheral smear? So they drew your blood, sent it in for a peripheral smear, okay? And then looked at your red blood cells under the microscope. Did you get a ferritin and a transferrin and a TIBC? Did you look at the MCV? So there's a lot of things that we're not maybe looking at that, could give us more evidence and a more appropriate diagnosis. My blood test said it. Okay, again, that I would make sure we're getting adequate blood tests. Or what about, what should I eat? Well, if you don't like steak, does that mean you don't like lamb? Do you like bison or buffalo or sheep or deer? I mean, you don't necessarily, steak to me is that cow, you're talking about beef. So you don't have to eat steak. You can eat ground beef if that's your concern, or, I'm not sure, you're not giving me enough information to help you with an adequate answer. Okay. All right. If you guys have questions, put a Q in front of it, or a QQQ. But just simply reading your... Carrie says, I do have elbow pads, but want to not use them. Then don't use them. I'm just trying to help you during your sleep at night. Maybe not bend your arm, maybe take some of the pressure off of your ulnar nerve. I'm not telling you to wear them while you're lifting. I'm just saying maybe at night while you're sleeping for a week or so to encourage some healing. So you think that the hammer curls are the culprit. I agree. Hammer curls are a big problem for a lot of people. Oh, you're very welcome, Carrie. Lucy says, Carrie, look up wrist cars. Wrist cars. They tend to help tennis elbow. I don't know what that is. Hey, there's my mom. Everybody say hello to my mom, Malea Jensen. Okay, so we talked about omega-3s. That was one of our first questions. We talked about a little bit about supplements, and I don't think that we should be eating or taking in omega-3 supplements. Maybe you need to eat more fish. Maybe you need to eat more grass-fed animals. Okay, now, with that being said, another question that always arises is vitamin C. Can I get enough vitamin C in my diet and don't need to take any? I will tell you, okay, Lucy, we'll look it up. It's an exercise, wrist cars. We'll look it up. Perfect. Thank you for helping. I appreciate that. By the way, if you guys recognize on Instagram, I have a live fundraiser here. It is for rescue, rehab, and rehome. I think it's available for the next 17 days. We're just in a small donation trying to raise $100. Rescue, rehab, rehome is here in Iowa, in the Des Moines Metro, and that is where I got my boy Tallow. So I try to raise money for them once a month, or once every couple of months. I want to help them out because I think they do a good job by helping save animals from being killed. There's a lot of dogs that are on kill lists, and because they're overcrowded, there is a lot of, and I was explaining this to my mom last night, there are a lot of rescues or shelters that will take animals that are going to be killed on the kill list. They will take them. People provide transport for these animals to rescues that are not kill rescue or kill shelters. So if these non-kill shelters are basically looking at all the kill shelters and trying to take their animals. It requires transportation. It requires immunizations in order to cross the state lines. For instance, when Tallow was born in Norman, Oklahoma. In Norman, Oklahoma, a rescue or a shelter will take these dogs. They'll pick them up off the streets, okay? But they are kill shelters. They can't keep them all. And then they have sister rescues all around, like the one here in the metro in Des Moines, Iowa. In the metro area, they look at these shelters like Norman, Oklahoma, and take these dogs. They can go upwards to 30 days in these shelters, and then they're in the kill they're on the kill list, and then they get euthanized. At day 28, they put them on these, day 28, they put them on these lists. And the lists, encourage the non-kill shelters to adopt these animals and then, get them across state lines, which requires, anytime you cross from Oklahoma to Missouri to Iowa, they have to be evaluated by a veterinarian. And that is what I'm doing, is raising money for rescue, rehab, and rehome. I'm very thankful for my Tallow. He's a good boy. Back to vitamin C. If you're carnivore, do you need to take vitamin C? No, you do not. The requirement for vitamin C is very minimal. But if you are eating a standard American diet or you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, then you do need to take probably vitamin C because you're consuming a lot of sugar. Sugar competes with the receptors for vitamin C. I believe that that is one of the reasons why vitamin C supplementation works so well during a viral infection. So people who take vitamin C need over an abundance to get to the receptors because their diet is full of sugar, full of carbohydrates that raise blood sugar, that raises insulin, and on and on and on. So for instance, a 12-ounce ribeye steak would have about 12 milligrams of vitamin C, which we need about 15 milligrams in order to survive. So no, I don't think if you're a carnivore, you need vitamin C. I think I missed a question. Oh, Lucy, thank you for saying hello to my mother. I appreciate that. Okay. All right, B vitamins, a question on B vitamins. Okay, I think, honestly, you guys, I truly believe if we are eating a well-rounded, I think if we're eating a whole food diet, we're not going to need these vitamins. If you are, again, I lean toward being cautious if you're a vegan. If you are a vegan, please be taking some B12. You're not getting B12 in your vegan diet. B12 is a cofactor or a coenzyme. It's a cofactor that helps production of other things needed in our body. So most vegans know this and they take B12. We can, if you are afraid of, do I need B12? Then I would suggest to you get a B12 level. You can also tell by getting your MCV level on the CBC, complete blood count. Look at the M Mary, C Charlie, V Victor, MCV level. If it's over 89, you are considered macrocytic. Now, some doctors wait till you're 95 and call you macrocytic. I don't. I think if it's starting to get over 89, 90, you are macrocytic. Macrocytosis means large red blood cells. They're not healthy. These are not healthy red blood cells. I would get a B12 level. I would get a folate level. And I would suggest, seeing why do you have these macrocytes? Because if you have macrocytosis, I would strongly suggest that you get iron studies because iron can throw this off. Iron overload can throw off the size of your red blood cells. The person who commented on they're being iron deficient, maybe they're not. All right. You also have to think about if you are eating a lot of plant foods. See, this is where I always question. They'll say, in order to get B6, you should eat plants, and that carnivores don't get enough B6. There is plenty of B6 in a carnivore diet. You might want to encourage the consumption of organ meats, though. There's so much controversy, and really without getting the levels, you don't know if you're absorbing it or using it or getting enough from your diet. I think for general purposes, whatever diet we are eating, just maybe get levels. If you're concerned, get levels. But here's where I question. They say, okay, carnivores aren't getting enough B6, okay? That they don't eat plants, so they're not going to get B6. Yet, if you eat plants, you're actually got consumption of oxalates and phytates, which decrease the absorption of B vitamins, B6, B3, B9, B12. So by eating the plant itself, you're decreasing absorption, which I don't think is a good, is it a trade-off? I'm not sure. So I get to thinking like, oh, you carnivore people need to eat plants, but then you eat the plants and now you have oxalates and phytates that are, decreasing the absorption of, which I saw there's another question, zinc, calcium, magnesium, your B vitamins, iron, all of the positively charged ions. You're not going to absorb those if you're eating a diet full of oxalates and phytates. I go back and forth, okay? I am one that does not eat any, very small amounts, if any, plants in my diet. I think my diet of animal-based diet is getting enough of the things I need. But I do include organ meats in my diet. If you are somebody who does not like them and you want to say, hey, I'm going to take a supplement, I don't think they're as good. But maybe you can get used to just mixing in a little bit of liver, mixing in a little bit of heart. Just have your butcher mix it in. Another thing I go back to with the vitamin C is people who are consuming a ton of vitamin C, and they don't know this, but when you consume a ton of vitamin C, it encourages your body to produce oxalates. So you could say, oh, I'm carnivore and I don't eat plants. Great. But you're also one of these people who take an excess amount of vitamin C because you heard it was good for your immune system. No, it can encourage the production of oxalates. Oxalates will leach out calcium from your bones because oxalates need to bind with something, and they love to bind with calcium. They'll bind with magnesium, but they love to bind with calcium. So a person who's taking in a lot of vitamin C over time now sets themselves up for osteoporosis, weak bones. You need calcium for your bone structure. You need protein, especially protein for your bone structure. You need to exercise, lift weights, which causes tugging on the bones to strengthen them. But there's a lot of things that we're doing. We've heard this or that, and so we'll just take a supplement. We heard glutathione is good for us, so we'll take glutathione. It's our master antioxidant. No, it's not. Or I'm going to take increased amounts of vitamin C. Or I'm going to take B6 because I heard B6 helps the red blood cells. Or, my homocysteine level is elevated. If homocysteine is elevated, then there's not enough cysteine to make make glutathione. I know this is confusing, right? I'm trying to confuse you. It's just I got all of these things in my head, and I'm trying to, I guess the big picture. When we start reading up on, homocysteine is good for, in certain amounts, is good for supplying enough cysteine in order to make glutathione. So elevated homocysteine is not a bad thing. Well, it actually is a bad thing because it's sucking up all of our cysteine. Now there's not enough cysteine to make glutathione. So it's almost like we need a little bit, not too low, not too high. We just need that perfect amount. Well, then why don't we just take cysteine supplement? Now you're talking about taking a synthetic amino acid to try to supply enough sulfur amino acids to make glutathione. Why not just eat the food? There's enough cysteine in red meat, in the ruminant meats, there's enough, but we tend to overthink things and maybe doubt that we're getting adequate nutrition. I've had people tell me that if you are strictly carnivore, I am not a strict carnivore. I do a little bit of cheese, or I do raw cheese. I do raw heavy cream. I do some coffee. I am not a carnivore. Are there strict carnivores out there? Yes. I'm not one of them. I could be considered ketovore. Might be considered keto. I guess it depends on the day and the amount of carbs that I have taken in. But if you are strictly carnivore and you want to be on the safer side of safe, then add some organ meats. It's really simple. Okay. You Instagrammers don't. You're sitting so quietly. You're sitting quietly, and if you're carnivore, if you still have macrocytosis, meaning your MCV is elevated, I think it's imperative that you get a homocysteine level, you get a B12 level, and you get a folate level. There is a possibility, and I go back and forth on this, you could have a MTHFR gene mess up, okay? If there is such a thing, you could be MTHFR deficient. What I mean by that is you are unable to convert folic acid to folate. It's like you have tomatoes, you want ketchup, but you don't have the blender. You don't have the enzyme that will help convert folic acid into folate. And so it has been suggested that these particular people, there's two genes for this, these particular people would be best served by taking a methylated folate. Now, do I think you could get enough folate from your diet? Yes, but some people can't. They can't. They can't absorb it. Are they eating plants? Maybe. It's maybe they're just not absorbing it. So they might want to take a methylated folate supplement to help with their MTHFR. If you are known female to have had miscarriages, you need to have your folate level checked. You need to have your tested for MTHFR. Okay, get tested for MTHFR. Do not take folic acid. Do not take folic acid. I don't think anybody should take folic acid. I do not think anyone should take synthetic folic acid. It builds up in our system and we cannot get rid of it. So taking more is not helpful if you do not convert folic acid to folate. Do not take it. If you are pregnant and you're saying, but what about the prenatal vitamins? Don't take them. Eat real food and maybe take an L-methylated folate supplement. But don't take folic acid. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. What is my opinion on vitamin D supplementation? Why is your vitamin D level low? Are you not absorbing it? Are you eating increased amounts of phytates and oxalates? Are you eating a lot of lectins? Why is your vitamin D level low? Do you have hypothyroidism? Did you check your thyroid? Do we just go and take a vitamin D supplement without checking our vitamin D levels? I don't think so. I don't think we should take anything without checking our levels. Are you not a person who gets out in the sun? Why aren't you able to produce your own vitamin D? Are you absorbing it? Do you have a lot of body fat? Remember, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. All right? A fat-soluble vitamin that requires fat consumption. So if you don't eat fat in your diet, you're not going to absorb vitamin D. If you have a lot of fat on your body, guess where the vitamin D is going to be stored? Exactly, in your fat. So now you're going to look at a whole bunch of taking, you'll never get your level up. You'll say, I'm taking vitamin D, 10,000 IUs or whatever it is that you're taking, and I still can't get my vitamin D level up because you're storing it in your fat. Don't take vitamin D supplementation unless you really, really need it. Get outside. Eat foods rich in vitamin D. Okay. Carrie says, my sister lost lots of blood giving birth, put on a large amount of iron. Eesh. She has a tear, not healing, is on laxatives. A tear, like in the rectum, is on laxatives. How can I help her? Helping her cut sugars, carbs, and weight training. So how long ago was this giving birth? Because within 3 to 4 months, you should be producing normal red blood cells again. Losing a lot of blood, I'm sorry, but that usually will recover on its own. You don't necessarily need to take synthetic iron. Increasing amounts of red meat would help more, because heme iron in red meat is more absorbed than non-heme iron. Remember, only about 3% of non-heme iron is absorbed. Non-heme iron is not in our best interest, okay? Heme iron is about 30% absorbed. That's going to help the red blood cell health better than non-heme iron. So taking non-heme iron is only adding to the accumulation that you can't get rid of. It's being sequestered or being locked up inside cells. And that's going to throw off the liver. And it's such a tumbleweed. And it's hard to explain. For me, it's hard to explain in simple terms. But when we have our liver not doing well, and we've lost blood, we have iron overload. And the organ that takes up the most iron, that takes the brunt of everything, is usually the liver first. The liver gets knocked down in everything. If you are consuming a lot of carbohydrates, the liver takes a hit. If you are consuming a lot of non-heme iron, the liver takes a hit. If you are eating processed foods with a lot of PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acid, omega-6, linoleic acid, your liver takes a hit. And so we're damaging our liver all the time, and then we're thinking, I'm just going to do a liver cleanse. But yet you're still consuming or taking in all of these things. And wow, you expect your liver to get better with just a one-time deal, which it does not. I'm not encouraging that. I'm saying heal your liver by removing the toxins. Your liver enzymes are likely elevated, although your doctor's not going to tell you that. You need to get an AST and an ALT. You also need to get a GGT. You can also get an MCV. All of these, and a bilirubin and an elk phos, yes. But these 4 main ones are going to tell the true story about your liver function. And because we have what we call a reference range, if you fall in that reference range, which, an ALT and an AST can go up to 45. That is not a healthy liver. That is a sick liver. It's a very sick liver. An optimal AST and an ALT is around 10 to 15. An MCV around 85. A GGT around 10 or less, but you likely have fatty liver. You have cholestasis. You have things that are making your liver very sluggish. Then the gallbladder gets sluggish. It's a fine line, but you need to talk to somebody who's educated, and doctors that'll tell you, your liver's fine. You fall well within the reference range here. That's normal. You're normal. No, you're not normal. You're sick. Your liver's sick. Things that you're doing is alcohol. That can make the liver. Fructose and alcohol are probably the worst causes of fatty liver disease. Yet we consume them on a daily basis. Not a good idea. Not a good idea if you want a healthy liver. Eating processed foods is not good for your liver. Taking in non-heme iron is not good for your liver. Hidden talent. I drink too much whiskey and I'm scared to check my liver. Well, then don't check it, and just work on changing the consumption of your whiskey. If getting that liver enzyme is going to play havoc on your mind and cause depression or cause you to be overwhelmed and anxious, then, don't get it. I don't want to, I don't want to worsen your problem, but your problem is not the liver, it's actually your consumption of whiskey. So, it's going to take some of you working to work this out with your relationship with whiskey or alcohol in general. It's, you're likely using it as your endorphin, your dopamine hit, and it is destroying your liver. Maybe not any more so than people who overconsume fruit, which is fructose. Fructose causes that same thing. Mark, I am a family practice physician. I went to medical school and then I did a family practice residency, all in Iowa. Carrie said, oh, she gave birth 18 months ago, so taking it slow. Well, how slow do you need to? I think 18 months is enough time to heal. 18, thoughts on high ferritin levels. How high? Is it just the ferritin that's high? What's your hemoglobin and hematocrit? What's your MCV? What's your transferrin? Ferritin level, a lot of times doctors will get a ferritin level because they're looking for inflammation. So they'll get a CRP, they'll get a ferritin level, they might get an IL-6, they might get these things, and then they'll say, oh yeah, you're inflamed. My thought is, what is causing the elevated ferritin levels? What is causing the ferritin to be bound up with iron? It's important to know. And just getting a ferritin level is not adequate. And I have seen ferritin levels 600-800, and I see that in my cancer patients. High ferritin levels, very high ferritin levels, can be seen in cancer. So it's a great test to get, but without anything else, it can be non-specific, okay? Mark, I think I answered this question. I am not a carnivore. I'm more keto than anything, but thank you. Good question. Mark, if you choose to eat linoleic acid and fructose, I think that's fine. If you are healthy, skipping down the street, singing the happy song, then I think you're fine eating linoleic acid and fructose. No one's telling Mark what to eat. Is anybody telling Mark what to eat? No. But if you ask me a question, where can I get B12? I'm going to suggest things that you can get B12 from, or vitamin D, or calcium, that are food related instead of taking a supplement. Okay. Hopefully that answered the vitamin D. Again, people who are low on vitamin D are also at risk for viral infections or bacterial infections. The immune system is important, and so vitamin D is important for our immune system. And Mark says there's a lot of awful misinformation around those things in a lot of communities. It's worth asking. Sure, what is some of the misinformation in a lot of communities? What are you suggesting? Or give me an example that would help the listeners know where you're coming from, Mark. Vitamin D is, in order to make that hormone, we need fat and cholesterol. And those of you who are on a statin that lowers cholesterol, or not eating a diet that's higher in fat, then you could be at risk of having low vitamin D. And then when your vitamin D is low, then you are at risk of infections. It's part of our immune system. Okay? Good question, good question. I like these questions. I even like the doubters, and that's fine. Kenny, that's a great point. The problem is some people can't eat or drink in moderation and then becomes addictive in my opinion. No, you're absolutely right. And so, it is learning behavior is very difficult. Okay. It is one of the most difficult things that I have really launched into, and knowing about like how our brain functions. It's with the neurotransmitters, serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine, the three main neurotransmitters in our brain. When I say endorphins, there are certain things in our life that we use to increase our dopamine. Dopamine is kind of that feel good. So let me just give you an example. You're a smoker, and the smoking, the tobacco or the nicotine, it's the tobacco. I don't believe it's the nicotine. I believe it's the chemicals that are in the plants or the inside, all the chemicals, the 600 other chemicals that are in a cigarette. And all those chemicals go and they stimulate our brain and raise dopamine. In order to stop smoking, a certain medication came out. Well, certain medications came out. One is simply just taking Wellbutrin or bupropion. Wellbutrin, or the generic name bupropion, increase dopamine. They're dopamine receptor agonists. There's also Chantix. Chantix actually blocks nicotine from attaching to the cell membrane. So you say, Dr. Jensen, then it is nicotine. Or is it all the other chemicals? I don't know. This is something that needs to be studied. But let's just say that Chantix is blocking the nicotine receptor. And because it's blocking the nicotine receptor, it must be nicotine that we need to block. That's where I don't completely get on board. I believe the other chemicals are also attaching to that nicotine receptor. Other things in our body attach to the nicotine receptor, not just nicotine. That receptor is used for a lot of things. So if I give you guys Chantix is going to basically, it's going to cover up that nicotine receptor so the other chemicals can't get to it. That's in the cigarette. And so eventually the person just stops smoking because they're not getting that hit. That hit releases endorphins. Endorphins, you can consider them as feel good, and anything can be an endorphin. Getting a new pair of shoes or going shopping can be your endorphins. Going to sleep could be your endorphin. There's so many out there, but people use, we use things like alcohol or tobacco, and then over time, we do get addicted. Now, I bend things back to the gospel all the time, and I would ask, if you're a believer in Christ as your Savior, where is your heart? Where are you? Why are you using a drug or a something to fulfill your life, to make it joyful or whatever it is? It could be exercise. Like I said, it could be shopping. It could be sex. It could be alcohol. It could be smoking. It could be any number of things. But what that tells me, not so much mental or psychiatric, their dopamine receptors are all messed up upstairs and we just got to fix their dopamine receptors and here's your medicine. Or do they really have something going on in their heart? You guys might say it's all mental, but is their heart right? Is their spirit right? And sometimes I bend that back and say, is there something that went on in their life that disrupted their ability to forgive? Did something hurt them? That's usually where this starts, is some sort of hurt, some sort of rejection. Rejection is the main form of hurt. Usually this hurt or rejection occurred in childhood. And people will say, well, it's pretty common because my dad was a drinker and I'm a drinker and it's hereditary. Or did you miss out in your childhood of a dad who was a drinker? Was there hurt? Was there rejection? Did you feel embarrassment? Did you feel abandonment? Where did it stem? And because there's stages. The other day or last weekend, I talked about the stages of grief and of death and dying and grieving with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. But I could say the same thing, that there's stages that we go through. First you go through denial, and then anger, and then, you want to, you want to barter. Okay. And then finally you might come to acceptance. Well, there are stages of an unforgiving heart. And is that person who's addicted to drugs have somewhere in deep inside it, whatever your spirit is, okay? Mine happens to be the Holy Spirit, and it's that's where Jesus sits, okay? But yours might be something else. And I'm not trying to get into that part of what your spirit is, and you got to have that. All I want what I have, because I want you to experience the love of Jesus. But you can still go through these stages of being hurt and rejected and being abandoned or being embarrassed, and then you go into the next stage, which is usually confusion. Okay? In confusion, you're a bit bewildered. Like, why did that happen? Could you have went through that as a child and say, what just happened here? Or you could be in this stage of hurt all of your life, and you're 40 years old, and you're saying, I'm still bewildered. I'm still confused about why this is. And you might experience, anytime an association comes up with that hurt that you tried to put into the back of your memory, it's like a pit in your stomach. And that pit in your stomach is something in your body. It's telling you you're confused or you're bewildered about, why did this happen? Then you might look for some detours, okay? I think there's types of detours, mental detours, where I'm just not going to think about it. So you not think about it for the rest of your life. And you try to change the subject, and you do things that motivate you to change or to get it out of your mind. That's where drugs and alcohol might come in. You're on the detour stage of an unforgiving heart for something that might have happened in your life. Okay? You might not have even thought about alcohol or cigarettes or drugs until you're 40 years old. You get hurt, husband leaves you, whatever, and now you get hurt, you're rejected, now you're confused, you're bewildered, why did this happen? And then you start looking for detours. Mentally, I'm going to shut it all down. I'm going to don't think about it. I'm going to change the subject if my husband ever comes up. I'm going to be motivated and maybe be consumed by addictions like drugs and alcohol and food. Food. Don't forget, food is a drug. Okay, so I overeat, I start gaining weight, I'm doing all these things. Then the detour can also be a physical. You start absolutely avoiding any place that hurt is associated with. Now you don't go to the gym because you met your husband at the gym. I'm just giving this as an example, okay? Or whatever that might be. You went to a bar, now you avoid bars, whatever it might be. But you'll consume it at home, or you'll do these other things. Okay, then you just really start, after these detours, both mental and physical, you start going through a stage where you're kind of digging a hole for yourself. And you want to bury it as deep as possible, way down in deep, where you think it's all forgotten, okay? Then you might go through a stage where you are completely defeated. No matter how deep, okay? No matter how deep you try to put it, digging a hole, that hurt, that rejection, it comes out. And it comes out in your behavior. You know that your behavior is wrong. It could be anger, irritability, a short temper, overly sensitive, shy, jealousy. All of these things could show up as a behavior because you're defeated. And people can live in this stage for long periods of time. And so they're never really associating, doctor, I'm not hurt. You say you're stuck in the look for detours and you get addicted. I'm not hurt. I don't have any hurt. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not bitter. I'm not anything. Yet I can look at your behavior and say, I've seen you. I've seen your temper. It's like a short fuse. I've seen your irritability. I've seen you're oversensitive. You're just oversensitive about everything. Somebody brings something up and it's just like, you take everything personal. You can't laugh. You don't do anything. Something is coming out, no matter how deep you've tried to suppress that hurt, that rejection, that embarrassment, way back at stage 1. It's now coming out, or it's been coming out. And people say, oh, I know that person. They're a delightful person. Oh, you haven't seen them. And you know who experiences the worst? The spouse, the child, the family member, the coworkers, the bosses, whatever it is. They're getting the brunt of all of these things. The behavior. And until that person comes to figure out what it is that hurt them and caused all of these things, they are going to continue to go through these stages, sometimes over and over and over again. That's why they can't get rid of their addictions. They're still on a detour. They're still digging a hole. Their behaviors are coming out. They have no relationships. They find a relationship and then they end up messing it up because their behaviors, their temper, their anger, their oversensitivity, their blah, blah, blah. It's deep. And something deep, usually going back to a hurt, a rejection, and something that triggered all of this. And once these behaviors start and you start losing relationships, then you get discouraged. And what happens in discouragement? This is where people think about suicide, or they think about divorce, or they think about going for more drugs, or they think about over-exercising and not eating. It can go both ways, both extremes. It's tough. Until the person, after being self-defeated so much, discovering the truth is where it's at. There's a root of this bitterness. And it's once you find that truth, then it's going to provide insights, and you're going to start connecting dots, and you're going to fit the pieces in the puzzle and go, oh my gosh, it was there all along. Then you take responsibility. That's the next stage. Once you know the truth, now you got to take responsibility. You got to own up to it. You got to quit blaming people, blaming others, but I never did that. No, you actually did. It was in your behavior. You didn't so much and say, it's your fault to the wife or the husband or the kids or the co-workers. It was never really their fault. You never took responsibility. So you blame everything on everybody. And you might not have think it's blaming them, but you took it out on them with your anger, your irritability, your oversensitivity, whatever it might be. So you really need to open your heart up again. In my, with my spiritual being, that would be opening up my heart to God. I would need to let go of whatever it is and let God take the reins. Let the Holy Spirit take over. Holy Spirit, once I've accepted Christ, is here all along. I'm just not let him be in the counselor and the guidance and follow, and being the lead for my footpaths. So once you go through these stages of figuring it out, then you got to decide. So say you take ownership. Do you want to forgive? Do you want to forgive that hurt? And what does that even look like? I know you're thinking, how does this have to do with health? This is health, you guys, because a lot of things that we do that derail our health stem from our inability to get over something that happened to us. A hurt, a rejection that usually occurs in childhood. I'm not saying it can't occur in adulthood, but usually it happened in childhood and it's happening over and over and over again in adulthood. Okay? So now that you've decided, I don't want to take ownership. I don't want to take responsibility for these things. Why not? Are you selfish? Are you selfish and you don't want to look inward? You don't want to, you just want to think about yourself, your rights, your feelings, and then piss on everybody else? Okay, I guess that's one way of dealing with it. Or, is it your pride? I'm not going to forgive. I'm not going to say to that person, you hurt me or you did this. That would be giving them, a win. I'm not going to let them win. That's pride. Okay? You want to think about revenge. You get divorced from your spouse and all you could think about is, I want them to suffer what I suffered. That's pride, you guys. What about low self-esteem? You feel like you're insignificant. You go through life, you were rejected, you were hurt, you were embarrassed, and now you have low self-esteem. That's why you don't want to forgive. They hurt you, or whatever hurt you, and now you're saying, well, the unfair circumstances, it gets to me, and I just, it actually becomes your identity. You actually live in a state of, woe is me. I do this. Eeyore, woe is me. So you're thinking all along that you're stuck in this self-defeat. You don't want to forgive because you're actually now identifying, and people feel sorry for you. You'll meet somebody, you think, oh my gosh, this is the love of my life. And then they want to help you because they see that you're fragile and you need help, and they think they can fix you. But you've been doing this all along, all your whole life. And then you find a savior, which is not the one and only savior. You just look to some human to save you, or an animal, or whatever the thing is, the alcohol or the whatever that can save you. It can't. Only Jesus can, but that's for a day, another story. Okay, so you become this identity of this self-defeated, low self-esteem person, and you live now, your endorphin now becomes their sympathy until they get fed up. They were a closed up person, a circle. They had everything they needed. They wanted to meet another circle. Bing, bing. Then you yoke together. But if one person's a circle, they have everything, they're independent, they don't need you or something to make them complete. They're complete, they're a circle. And now they are attracted to a C. Oh boy, that C will suck their energy dry. Here's their circle, here's the C, and the C is pulling until the circle, the complete person, can't take any more and leaves or exits. Okay? The self-defeated person who's identifies with that identity can suck as much energy as they can get out of that person. Okay? And then it's like all over. I can't do it anymore. So you continue to bring these life events on. You're going to attract those people over and over and over again. And then guess what? They're going to hurt you. And then you're going to go through all of the stages again. That you call it rejection. You call it whatever it is, embarrassment. And then you go through the stages. You dig deeper holes. You suppress it. You do all the things. Then you get to the mental detours and you start drinking again. And do you see how this goes over and over and over again? Some people don't forgive because they've actually thought they've done it already. This is where it becomes even more elusive. What if you're the person listening to me right now and say, yeah, I forgave that person. I forgave my dad for drinking all those years ago. I forgive him and it's over. But even if you said it, you prayed about it, if you are still getting tensed up about it, you likely have not forgiven. Your behavior will be a cue. What if the situation is just so painful that you can't even think about bringing it up again? That could be a possibility for your unwillingness to forgive. You don't want to go there again. You were raped and you just don't want to go there again. You can't possibly think about bringing that situation up again. You don't even want to discover the truth and take responsibility, because that would mean you would have to bring it up again. And you don't want to do that because it's too painful. Worst case scenario, why you aren't forgiving? You don't know how. You don't know how. And so Ducky says, sometimes you don't forgive, and sometimes you cut people forever. Does that mean, I'm not getting your point, but I can maybe make a comment, is the person who can't forgive, who maybe doesn't know how to forgive, will continue to hurt people the rest of their life, and they will hurt themselves at the same time. It takes a really strong person, and I'm not calling you weak if you can't do this, but it takes strength and fortitude, and it takes maybe getting help, walking through this, because you are causing generational things with your kids. If you are the parent and you suffered something as a child, okay, and it destroyed you, and you went through all of the stages of this hurt. You went through hurt and rejection and embarrassment and abandonment and all these things, right? And then you went through confusion and bewilderment, and you looked for detours, and you dug a hole, and you denied that you even had a problem, and then you become discouraged and defeated, and then finally you say, I think I know what it is, and I take responsibility. Or you never get to that stage. But think about your kids living through that. Okay? You as parents who suffered through that, never got through your stages. Now you are generationally harming your children. And now they are going to have the hurt, abandonment, rejection, and go all through it over and over again. Do I think I know what is lacking in all of this? Yes, I know. It's personal. It's God. We lack a relationship with our Creator. And because we lack a relationship with our Creator, we can't get past every other stage and get to this forgiveness. This forgiveness isn't for you, well, for them. Like it's not for you to give them a free ride. Like, you hurt me, I'm forgiving you, and so that means it didn't happen. It didn't hurt me that bad. No. It is not for them. It is actually for you, because you are the one in bondage, not them. The person who hurt you is not, it isn't your problem. You are in bondage because you can't let it go. I know it's hard. That's why I'm going through all of these stages for you, because I want you to go, oh my gosh, I would have never thought about this. No wonder I act the way I do. No wonder I can't maintain a relationship. No wonder I have friends abandon me. No wonder blah, blah, blah. I can't keep a job. No wonder I drink or turn to food or take drugs. Marcos, thank you so much. For you guys that are listening here, Marcos, he cares about me so much. Let me tell you what Marcos said. You need to wash your hair, it looks like. Marcos, thank you so much. You're such, you just put me into a hurt, a physical, emotional, verbal hurt. Marcos, you poor thing. This is the look of having just showered, because I worked out, took care of my body. Prior to coming on here, it dried in the air of the atmosphere, and you are telling me I need to wash my hair? Now, what is that called? When you deflect something of yourself onto others. So in order to lift me up, I have to bring you down. Poor Marcos. We should pray for Marcos, right, Lucy? We need to pray. All of my Lucys who are listening right now, all my prayer warriors, because Marcos needs to bring somebody else down in order to find value in his life. And see, he's probably stuck, or she, I don't know, is stuck in the stage of digging a hole and not wanting to take responsibility and pushing it off and taking mental detours and taking physical detours. That is the person who's hurt. And so instead of lashing out at Marcos for trying to bring me down, we need to lift Marcos up in prayer. Lift Marcos up. Right on, Lucy. Lift Marco up in prayer. Okay? It's really kind of a sad thing. But we're going to pray for Marco. I mean, seriously. Because he or she is just one of millions of people who are in this defeated, denying, dig a hole, hurt people, hurt yourself mode. And they have been hurt. This is exactly perfect timing, Marcos. Perfect timing. Because you just basically gave me the ammunition for people to understand what hurt looks like, what hurt and rejection and confusion and detours and digging a hole and then denying it and becoming defeated and becoming discouraged, all of it. You just showed everybody listening my point. Your behavior, your anger, your irritability, your oversensitivity, your shyness, your jealousy, whatever it is, just came out. It just came out. And now everybody can see it because this is public. And yes, Lucy, Jesus loves Marco. Marco may not love Jesus. And that is why we need to pray. Okay? Does anybody have any questions on any of what I just got done speaking with for about 20 minutes? Good morning, Dennis. Thanks for joining. Nobody's adding to. This is a lot of times, Lucy, thank you for commenting, but Lucy, this is a lot of times why going on social media or, trying to help other people, my calling, my blessing that God gave me is my ability to teach and to share information. And he blessed me with an ability to share health information. I have been a physician for 27 years, and I've been wrong a lot because the information I was fed was wrong. And then we'll do a 360 or 180, I guess it would be a 180 flip. And we kind of go the opposite way. But what happens in this time is you actually start using your brain. My brain was like in numb, it was just in underdrive. It wasn't even being used. I was just being fed information all along, whether it be through medical school, undergrad, residency, and then graduating out and getting a job and working for somebody. And then you got to do CME, and the CME, continuing medical education, continues into all the same information. It's all written, all the CME was written by the exact same people that did medical school training, that did the curriculum. It's all the same. And so until you jump out of that matrix and try to use your brain and open up and use some logic, you're going to continue to share wrong information. And I did that much of my early years. Okay, it wasn't until my later years where I said, hey, you know what? I got to start looking this stuff up. I got to be, this is important. I don't want to hurt people. And now I'm finding out that I might have hurt people by the information I gave them. Could my information now be absolutely wrong? Absolutely. I would take ownership of that, and in humility and be humble, I would say, I was wrong. Like, if you guys tell me, I think some of that information is wrong, tell me which information is wrong. You look something up, you did something, let's look it up together. Let's talk civilly. Let's try to help each other, educate ourselves. We are, in this world, we're on the same trajectory. I'm on a journey, just like you guys are on a journey, and we're doing this together. I don't want to pretend like I know more than you and I'm going to get to the finish line first. That is ego and not giving into forgiveness. Do I need to always be number one? No. If you are truly in Christ, you will want to serve others. My servitude in the name of Jesus is to help you guys walk through your health. Are you eating processed food and you think it's food? And is that harming your health? Do you have diabetes? And why do I have diabetes? Oh, my mom and dad had diabetes. I got diabetes. No, did your mom or dad eat the exact same things that you ate? Children learn what they live. They're going to eat what their parents eat because the parents buy the food or not food, fake food, factory products. You don't get diabetes by exercising on a daily basis, sleeping well, getting out in nature, and eating a whole food diet. You don't get diabetes that way. Type 2. And if the doctor or the person that you trust with their information says that, you know what, you got diabetes, it can't be prevented, it can't be reversed, you got a family history, woe is you, it's over, you're done deal. No, then that's not the doctor or the higher beam of knowledge and logic. That's not the person for you. Okay? Find a different doctor. Oh, I love you guys over on YouTube. You're like a dream come true, most of you. All right. Are there any other questions? Questions about supplements? Questions about carnivore? Rowan says, I knew someone who got diabetes from being malnourished. Does that mean they were obese and their muscles were depleted too? Okay. The definition of diabetes mellitus is too high of sugar. Sweet urine. You have a toxicity of sugar. That is diabetes. Okay? Diabetes is carbohydrate toxicity. If you have type 2 diabetes, okay, and you want to reverse it, do you continue to give yourself the toxicity, which is carbohydrates, which raise blood sugar, which raises insulin? So a person who's obese, you would think, well, they're not malnourished. Yes, they are. That's why they're obese. They keep reaching for no nourishment. They reach for fake food. They did not get obese by eating steak and eggs and butter and bacon and cream and milk and cheese. No, they got obese from eating things that raise blood sugar, that raise insulin, and insulin causes fat cell hyperplasia. That means big fat cells. The more fat cells you have, the more they can take in. A person who is malnourished eats because they're seeking nourishment, but they're not getting it from the foods or fake foods that they choose to consume. So then they eat again because they're hungry, because their body is hungry for nourishment, which they're not getting. You don't see people overeating real food. Thank you, Dorothy. I appreciate your wisdom, and yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So if there's nothing else, it looks like those are all the questions, and nobody on Instagram. Okay. All right, you guys. To conclude, I will tell you, I will be back, Lord willing. I'll be back tomorrow. Every Saturday and Sunday, I'm live. Saturday at 9 a.m. Central and Sunday at 10 a.m. Central. If you would like to sign up for a consultation, go over your labs, just email me at IronLadyDoc@AOL.com. IronLadyDoc, IronLadyDoc @AOL.com. AOL, okay? And, sign up for a consultation. We'll go over things. If you would like to, on Instagram, if you would like to give $1 or $2 to Rescue, Rehab, and Rehome, it is a shelter that, where I got one of my rescue dogs. He's important to me, and it's important that I want to once a month, once every 3 months, ask for support, even if it's $1 or $2. Every little part helps, to buy collars, to buy blankets, to buy food, treats, to pay for their spay and neuter, and maybe to pay for their other things that they need. And it helps pay for foster care. These dogs sometimes have to go to foster care for months. So, okay. Oh, before we end, Dennis, told your cardiologist he did not like taking statins and he wants me to try Regatta. I don't know what Regatta is. Your thoughts? Maybe you meant Repatha? Is it Repatha? I don't know what Regatta is. Is that another name for something else? Dennis, your cardiologist believes that cholesterol is going to be the problem for coronary artery disease, and that it was the cause of your coronary artery disease. And you either believe that or you don't believe that, okay? You either think that is truth or it's not truth. There are plenty of cardiologists who will tell you that cholesterol is not the cause of your coronary artery disease. It is your smoking and your drinking and your sugar all through the years that caused your problem, not your cholesterol. And so if you take a cholesterol lowering medication, you're, in other words, saying that you don't need cholesterol. You don't need hormones. So good luck, Dennis. I'm guessing you're a man with no testosterone, no vitamin D, no CoQ10, no vitamin K. So, among other things, if you don't have cholesterol, you don't have an immune system. If you don't have cholesterol, you don't have cell membranes. You are actually increasing your death rate faster. So you're going to die faster by no cholesterol than cholesterol. So your doctor is still under the belief that cholesterol is the cause of coronary artery disease. And like I said, there are other cardiologists that will give you a different scenario. So look into the different scenarios. What caused the injury? Did cholesterol or LDL, is that the cause of the injury to the lining of your artery? If you believe that, take the Regatta. If you think it was something else, don't take the Regatta. Am I denying the fact that plaque has containing cholesterol and LDL? LDL being a particle that contains cholesterol? Am I denying that? No. Cholesterol is healing. Could it be that the cholesterol is at the scene, at the site of injury, because it's acting as part of your immune system to help heal that area? Something to think about. So in that case, LDL and cholesterol would not have been the cause of your coronary artery disease. It would have been the antidote. And so now you're going to take a Regatta or whatever medicine it is to lower your immune system, your defense mechanism. See, this is where I used to be in that camp where, oh my gosh, your LDL is over 130 or it's over 100 or it needs to be under 70 or 50 or 40 now. You got diabetes and it's got to be under 40. Seriously, I used to be in that camp and I'm not anymore. I don't even know if I'm in a camp, but I now know truthfully that LDL is not the cause of the plaque and the buildup in the coronary artery disease. It's not. What is? That's something we got to keep looking into. Something's causing injury and something's not keeping up. Your defense mechanism is not keeping up with the amount of injury that it's occurring. And maybe you're older. If you're older, none of these medications are going to cause plaque regression. Nothing is going to cause plaque regression. But have you been able to stabilize your plaque? Or are you still gaining more plaque? And if you're gaining more plaque, what are you consuming? Is it in your environment? Is it the water you're drinking? Is it the air you're breathing? Is it smoking, drinking? Is it sugar? Is it heavy metals? Do you have iron overload? What is it? Something's causing an injury. Lucy says, I love hearing about your facial care. You have gorgeous skin. Well, prior to jumping on, after my shower, I put on vitamin C and a combination of B vitamins. And then I put a moisturizer on it. Yes, Dennis, hopefully you were talking about Repatha. So hopefully I answered your question. Okay? All right. So, all right. We will call it quits today. I'll be back, Lord willing, tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central. You guys have a great day. See ya.